Welcome everyone to the Data Science Working Group meeting for Tuesday, May 20th. We are a CHAOSS meeting, so we are under the CHAOSS Code of Conduct. So keep that in mind. Please be kind to each other. Jan, do you want to facilitate this one?
Yeah,
Or
sure.
yeah, go for it.
Yep, I can go ahead. All right, thanks, Dawn, and welcome everyone to this meeting. It's good to see many of you from the last meeting join as well, and any new folks too. I think for the most part, we're going to talk about the data science hackathon that's going to happen the morning before CHAOSScon on June 26th. So I believe this event is going to run from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Mountain Time in Denver, Colorado. And then CHAOSScon is going to run, I think, 12:30 or 1 p.m. through to 4 p.m. Mountain Time. Is that right, Dawn?
Yeah, it starts at 1. Oh, I should just
Is it
look this up.
1?
So I think it starts at 1, but let me just double check. I
Yeah.
think it goes from 1 to 5. I've got
1
the
to 5. Okay.
1:30, sorry, 1:30 to 5 is what the
1.
website says. Oh yeah,
Okay.
that's right. It is 1:30 to 5.
So if it's 1:30 to 5, is we were thinking this event can run 9 to 12 with or 9 to 11:30 with an hour lunch and then a break for people to just go off and not feel like a whole day's worth of things. They could get that lunch and an hour break as well. So I think 9 to 11:30 with an 11:30 to 12:30 lunchtime, I guess, or however people want to trickle out. Um, and Don, do you mind clicking on that? What is it? The draft agenda.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I put 9 to 11:30, 11:30 to 12 for lunch, and then we can clean up. So this is kind of just a draft agenda here. We're thinking of having kind of a brief introduction to the hackathon. And I don't know if, Dawn, maybe I can write something up here as like the intro. And the theme we want is focus around chaos data science working group projects. And then we'll go through kind of overview of rules and expectations. We're thinking there'd be probably we're expecting less than 30 people to join, maybe 20 in person. Did we want this to be a hybrid event?
We had talked about possibly making it a hybrid event. We would just need to figure out how that would work. And if there were people who were interested in attending, because I know a lot of the folks from Chaos Africa won't be able to attend. And we
Because
have
of the
quite
time zone?
no, just because they're not coming to the North America event, so they wouldn't be able to attend in person, so they might be interested in attending virtually.
Oh,
And
I see.
the time zone wouldn't be too bad because it's, let's see, mountain time. So 9 a.m. mountain time would be
It's a GMT.
10 a.m. Central time, which would be 4 p.m. West Africa time. So it would be the like afternoon, late afternoon, evening.
Okay. Maybe we can solicit interest, see how many people register for hybrid, and then in the sign up, let me just put a note here. In the sign up, we can put hybrid available based on interests.
Yeah.
And then I think what we could do is we can have a hybrid team. So there'll be pockets of teams working in person with, 4 to 5 people in each of those teams, depending on how many people we get. And then the hybrid team, say there's 10 people who end up joining, they can go out into 2 breakout rooms. And then we would just have we would have I was thinking we'd get mentors or group leads for each of those teams. So for instance, Sal has the foundation stats project. So Sal would lead that team. And then if I was gonna put up another project and I can lead that project. And then if others wanted to do, if others here, even on this call, wanted to lead a project, they can lead that one for the hybrid team.
Mhm.
So we would also have to get a group of volunteers to lead projects.
Yeah, that sounds good. And we can see, like you said, we can see what the interest is, and then we can figure out really how many projects we need, depending on how many people we think are actually going to show up.
Okay. I don't know why that was coming up blue.
And Chan, are you going to lead the hackathon?
I can, yeah, I
That
can.
would, that would be
Um,
great.
yeah,
You don't mind.
I won't be joining Open Source Summit though. I gave my ticket away to Josh French who helped us get the space. I figured it was he hasn't attended before. He helped us get a space, and I think there can be a lot of potential for open source happening in Denver, potentially at one of the universities.
Do you want to attend?
Um, I
Let's
could
let's
for
talk about this offline.
yeah, yeah.
Let's just chat about it. I
Yeah, we
have
could
I
talk
have
about it.
questions, but I'm
Mhm.
happy to. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Um, so I was also thinking that we could pull, depending on how many people we get, we could pull the top 5 projects from our issues list. What do you think?
Um, yeah. Yeah, I've been starting to poke around with the archive data, and that might be an interesting project for people who don't have a lot of data science background and want to do some manual digging into projects, because um, what I'm start what I'm starting to look at with the archival project is that you really kind of have to look at the README to figure out why they archived the project, and especially for like big projects. And so that might be an interesting project for people who don't want to write a bunch of code, who don't want to do like hardcore data analysis, but it's up the data cleanup and manual data gathering is an unfortunately large part of what data scientists do. So I'm happy to lead one around that. That would be it would be more manual stuff. And I can, because I can do some of the initial data gathering, which is what I've been working on. And then I have some ideas for how we can farm that out. So I can lead an archive project.
Okay.
We can
Um,
put that on
the
the
one
agenda.
that I was working on is the one with forks and relicensing. So pulling the various different projects of which ones have been relicensed and forked, and then also getting the different CHAOSS metrics for each of them. So I did write up a script on pulling commit. I think, let's see what the list was. Um, So number of commits, number of commit authors, number of issues, issue comments, PRs, stars, forks, new contributors, elephant factor, times of first response. And I think, Dawn, you may have listed out many of these metrics from, I think, the general chaos metrics list, or from maybe Georg.
Yeah, I think that was Georg actually.
Okay. So I wrote up a script to pull from the GitHub API on some of these. And then what I was thinking is I'd package it up into a Jupyter notebook into different sections and kind of very beginner walkthrough with a team to say, hey, show them the script. This part pulls the API. Now it's going to have it. Now it's pulling this table. Did it work for this metric? Maybe it doesn't. Let's try a different metric. And then have it pull a table and then pull a visualization, and then have that each member of that group go back to GitHub and actually verify that script is pulling the correct data, that visualization is correct, that data works out, and then potentially be able to save that and use that for our initial kind of findings, I guess, or potentially for reports if we think it's good.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'm struggling with the notes. Did somebody just add this? Is this a duplicate, or was this, because this was under?
Oh, sorry, I added that. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Because it was, yeah, okay. The notes are weirdly formatted.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries. I confused myself. Okay, cool. Sorry to interrupt. Sorry, you were.
Nope, all good. That's the one that I'll start to work on in the next few weeks here. Probably get it ready in the next 2 to make sure it works.
Cool.
And then having 3, I think, is pretty good. And then if we could come up with one for the hybrid team, and if there are more people, we can have some backup projects as well.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay. I did change the lunch. We are going to get Ike's instead because they do have
Thank
vegan
you.
options.
Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
you.
Mm-hmm. And they're better anyway. They're a better group to work with.
Awesome.
And I think that's it. It looks like Eunice made a flyer. We can add that flyer onto do you all use Eventbrite usually, or do you use something else?
Oh, that is an excellent question for Elizabeth.
Okay.
Because I think we do use Eventbrite. I'm not sure if we have an account.
Okay.
Because we're not going to charge for it. So I know we used Eventbrite, I think, to charge for Chaos Con EU. Yeah. Yeah, Elizabeth can give you some advice on what to use for registration.
Okay, cool. I will reach out to Elizabeth and figure that out. And I know CHAOSS just used a kind of Google form for registration, so maybe it's just that too.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll get this together, package it all up. Oh, and I actually think we might be getting a number of students from CU Denver who will also join too. So not just OSS folks or CHAOSS folks, but the students from the downtown campus will join.
Nice. That'd be great.
Yeah. And then I wanted to solicit if we do get a hybrid team, if folks who are if we end up getting a significant number of people, is there anyone here on this call who'd be interested in leading a hybrid team or a hybrid breakout session? And feel free to spend time thinking about it and come back to us.
Yes, I'm interested.
Thank you, Peculiar. Yeah, we
Peculiar.
can reach out and find a time to work on something and see if we can organize one of the projects to get it ready before then.
I am also interested. I don't know if you need more hands on work.
Yeah, and so I'll find a time with both of you to figure out how we coordinate the Zoom call for it, and then how do we actually execute the project over online.
All right.
Add that to the notes so that we remember who just volunteered. See if I spell things right. A lot of letters. Okay, cool. Anything else on the hackathon?
I'm not sure. Okay, we've got marketing, we've got projects, we'll get a registration form out, we'll get I wonder, yeah, I was gonna see if anyone here would be interested in help marketing some of it. I know Eunice just created a flyer, but then if someone be willing to start sending it out to different channels in CHAOSS or different networks that you have, I can, that would be really helpful, because I think what I'll do is I'll focus time on getting the registration and then the projects together.
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly start to, post it around at our networks and see if people want to come, or see who might want to come. We can certainly help out with that.
How can we find the flyer? Where can we find it?
Oh, can you post the flyer somewhere?
Yeah, what I can do is Eunice just finished it. So what I can do is I can, after I create the registration link, let me post the flyer and registration link. And then Dawn, do we also want to limit the number of people at all? Because I wonder, I'd hate for it to be like 70 people registered, only half of them actually show up, and then we want to be able to prepare enough projects for the people who show up as well and be respectful to them.
Yeah, I'm mixed feelings about that, because if it's free, a lot of people will sign up and then not show up. And I think that we have to pretty much assume that not everyone's going to show up. But that makes it really hard to plan.
Right.
Again, I'd talk to Elizabeth and see if she has any thoughts or best practices on that.
Okay.
And you'll post those in the data science working group channel?
Yep, I'll post that. I'll package it up, hopefully by the end of today, and then, or depending on when I get to talk to Elizabeth, I'll package it up, post it on the data science working group channel, and then you guys can feel free to announce it into your networks.
Cool. And the other person we should talk to about potentially leading a project is we should talk to Callie, because she's not here, and she'd be, if she has time, she'd be great at it. And Sean, because he's also not here and might be interested in leading a project.
We'll message Sean and Callie.
Awesome. I don't want them not to be included just because they happened to miss the meeting where we talked about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Especially if Sean's buying us sandwiches.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else on the hackathon? Okay.
Anything else?
Cool. I have been digging into the forks and licenses data. Two sides to this. I've been looking at because now, it's been 6 months since Elasticsearch added the AGPL, and it's been more than 6 months since OpenSearch joined the Linux Foundation. And so I was curious whether either of those events had any impact on the organizational participation for either of those projects. And I was pretty sure that with Elasticsearch, that it wasn't going to make any difference. Like they weren't going to end up with more people participating. And that was correct. So if you look at 1 year after they relicensed, they again it's mostly Elastic employees. They had 2 non-employees with greater than 10 commits in the year after they relicensed. So almost nobody makes significant contributions that isn't an Elastic employee. And then, so same thing, like 1 year before adding the AGPL, they had, so this is 1 year before they added the open source license again. And again, it's like one person outside of Elastic that wasn't an employee made more than 10 commits. So almost nothing. And in the 6 months after they added the AGPL, no one. They've had no non-employees make more than 10 commits to the project. So it looks like adding the AGPL didn't help them at all with organizational diversity. So getting contributors to the project. And then there's the other piece of this, right? So there's if you look at stars and forks, so I know stars and forks are popularity metrics. They're not project health metrics, but some research that Sophia and Georg did have shown that there is a correlation between usage of a project and GitHub Forks and Stars. So you can look at Forks and Stars and get kind of a proxy for usage, or at least trends around usage. Like it's not like if they've got 1,000 stars, they have 1,000 users. But if they have a certain number of stars and new stars every day, and then they have less than that, then that might indicate declining usage. So that's what I've been looking at. So if I look at so this is the median stars and forks per day for these projects. So this is the number of people who click that star button or that fork button per day. And this is the median per day over the time period here. So if you look at, a year before the relicense, they had more stars and forks. After the relicense, before adding the AGPL, they had fewer stars and forks than before. And it looks like adding the AGPL didn't really make much of a difference, but you can definitely see that when they relicensed, it looks like they got some declining usage. Looking at the stars and forks. Any questions about that? I know it's a lot of data, but it's all in the repository if you want to dig into it. Oh, so Chan, you went on mute, but I see your lips moving.
Would you scroll down to the open search? Is that, and for that one you put, okay, so for Elasticsearch, the relative timeline is to the relicense, and then for OpenSearch, the relative timeline is to joining a foundation.
Yeah, so before joining the foundation is basically the creation of the fork until they joined the Linux Foundation. And then the 6 months after joining the foundation is the data points there. And you can see I've got the organizational affiliation data for OpenSearch as well. And so if you look at the last year before they moved into the Linux Foundation, they had 6 people with 10 or more commits who didn't work at Amazon. So they had some people contributing, and you can see kind of who those people were and what they contributed. This person is the vast majority of it. So the person who works at Ivan made most of the non-Amazon contributions in the year before they moved to the LF. Now, what I was expecting was to see lots more contributions from people outside of AWS after they moved to the Linux Foundation, and I'm not. I'm seeing actually a little bit less. The same person from Ivan is still making loads of contributions. And this person, I think they maybe, yeah, I'm not sure where they work. They've made a few. Other people have made a few, but it's not the increase that I was expecting to see. Now this is just my data. I want to I've got some friends who work on the open search team, and I really want to sit down with them and get their take on this and see what they've been seeing. But again, I'm not seeing a difference in the stars and forks either. But they do have, and so this is 5 new stars per day and 2 new forks per day on, a median. So that's still, a fair bit. They are, it looks like, taking usage away from Elasticsearch. So you see Elasticsearch declining, and you see OpenSearch getting some of the usage traction. So, I think what we can say about this is that, the fork is getting some of the usage that the original project might have otherwise had.
Interesting.
Which is interesting. And you see this with all the other projects too, when you look at the usage, when you look at forks and relicensing as a proxy for usage. Terraform before the relicense, after the relicense, they're getting less traction. What I find interesting is that the forks that were started under the Linux Foundation, if you look at this is more stars per day than Terraform had even before the relicense. So they seem to be getting a significant amount of traction, possibly usage. And the 2 forks per day, that's not a lot, but Terraform is only having, about an average of 3 forks per day, which both before and after the relicense. And they have also, no, they haven't added the, sorry, this is in the wrong place. This should have been on the Redis, because they also added the AGPL.
Right.
Sorry, I've got a copy paste error in the data that I was putting together yesterday. But you see the same thing for Redis and Valky, right? You see that before the relicense, Redis had more forks, more stars. After the relicense, fewer, and Valky has more than they were getting more stars per day than Redis was even before the relicense. So the forks that start under foundations seem to be possibly are getting more usage. These are just, I mean, it's correlated. It's not causation. And so there's, we can't definitely say that it indicates usage, but it might be an indicator of, at least of interest, if not usage.
Yeah, and I saw this, I was playing around with the commit data, but I didn't break out the commit data into how you have done it with the, more than if it came from people with 10 or more commits. It was the general, here's the raw number of commits, and that could be from any sorts of people. But I noticed that with Freitas and Valky, that was the one I had started with, is that there are a significant number of Valky commits in comparison to Redis after the Valky announcement. So, and I called that the fork date. So I think the relicense date was like March 20th of 2024, but then the renaming, like I think they had forked it way before, like, so it pulled all the history, but then when they actually renamed it and announced it, Valky was like March 28th. And so I used that as the initial date, and then you can see the significant amount of commits that happen with Valky in comparison to Redis. And actually before the relicense, you can see the number of commits really dropped down. I think they went from like hundreds of commits over the past year to like 20 right before the relicense. And then right when that fork date or the announcement of Valky happens, you can see that that the number of commits they're trying to catch up with the number of commits on Redis, but Valky outnumbers that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think what a lot of times happens when a company like Redis decides that they're going to relicense is that I think they slow their internal development down. Not their internal development. I think they slow the pushes to the public repository, because anything they push to the public repository before the relicense is going to be in the open source code. So it wouldn't surprise me if if they were holding commits until after the relicense, so that those commits would be under the new license instead of the old one.
You're
That would
right.
be my guess. And you can look, you can see if you scroll down, you can see exactly the dates that I
Okay.
used for all of this data. Um, but no, I think that's really interesting, Chen. And I really like that you're using all of the commits. The only reason I broke it down and I'm looking at 10 or more commits is because with the organizational affiliation data, I have to track down where those people work. And if there's a big long tail of people who made one or two commits. And I just don't have the number of years that would be required to troll LinkedIn to try to find where those people worked if they're not using their company email addresses. So this was the 10 commits for the bigger projects or the 5 commits for the smaller ones. That is purely a logistical limitation when you're doing the organizational affiliation data. So absolutely, like all the other stuff that we do, we shouldn't limit it that way. I just had to for practical reasons.
Yeah, and maybe Dawn, maybe I need to connect with you on kind of thinking through how to um, how to use the best of my time to kind of actually pull in the right data and visualizations that would go into a report and fall into the, I'll look at your code to make sure it's the right dates and everything, but then that we're kind of on the same storyline too.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something that Peculiar and I were talking about earlier today, is that so right now we're here, let me just kind of go, I'll go back here. We're trying to figure out what health metrics might be interesting, right? And I honestly I don't know until we can start to dig into that data, but we need to think about which of the health metrics might be interesting, especially, and this is more so when we're looking at projects like Elasticsearch and Terraform that were dominated by employees, both before and after the relicense. Is there any interesting project health data? I don't know. I don't know what looking at those projects is going to give us when all of the people, or not all of the people, but most of the people contributing work for the company. I mean, what does project health mean in that kind of context? And I don't have good answers. I think Peculiar was hoping that I would have a good answer to that. That was her question. I don't have a good answer to that question as to what project health metrics might be most interesting. I think it's something that we need to, I don't know, experiment with, think about, maybe brainstorm.
I think it's a really good question. I think prior to relicensing, there's all of the things that could potentially lead to a relicense. So maybe was it the I think you have I may have posted last night on the project for this, but like not having enough non-company contributors to the project, and then them feeling like, oh, well, we're not getting contributors. We're getting a lot of people taking from this project, but not a lot of contributions back. And so maybe that could lead to to a relicense. So maybe that part. I think you have all of that data here already, right? So that can be telling of that relicense part. But then what happens, I guess, after the relicense? What are the metrics there? Are they? Yeah, I don't know. Because then most of the time the relicense is, it's not really an open source license anymore. So then the thought is, well, you won't get as many contributions, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I would be curious if you see the same drop off in commits right before the relicense for Elasticsearch and Terraform.
Yeah.
And it's hard to say, right? I mean, it might be that that's something that we see because, you know, internally within the company, they're holding back until they can do the relicense. But on the other hand, I'm not sure how many individual developers would know that they're going to relicense, because that's kind of a sensitive, it's a, you know, it's a sensitive change, and it's a big change. And for a public company, that might fall under the SEC rules, where they can't share that data because it could be what's called a material event. So it could be that individual developers don't know that they're going to relicense until it gets really close to the time that it happens. I don't know. Be
I
interesting.
think I saw that in Elasticsearch. There was a drop for that's before the licensing, the commit was more, and after the licensing, there was a big drop.
Hmm. Was there a big drop right before the relicense, like in the maybe month leading up to the relicense? I'd be curious if there was a drop in that month or two. Maybe we'll take another look at the data.
Yeah, I will take another look at it, but I used a year before the licensing, and then a year after.
Yeah.
So I'll look closely using the month to see what the drop were.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. Let us know. Let us know what you find out. Okay, we've probably talked about forks and relicensing long enough. We have 5 more minutes in the meeting. It looks like Sal's not on the call, so unless somebody else has an update on the foundation stats project, we can probably skip that one for this week. I think looking at the meeting notes, I think there was a bigger update on that in the last meeting.
I could reach out to Sal because she said she was going to be off for like the next couple of weeks, but I could reach out to her and get an update and get back to you.
Yeah, if you'd like to. If not, that's fine, because if Sal's out, then there probably hasn't been much of an update either. And I hate to disturb anybody on their holidays.
Alright.
But yeah, if you talk to Sal and want to get an update and send it back to us, that would be good. But yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about it. We're approaching summer, and people will be kind of in and out, I suspect, with holidays, summer holidays. Okay, so it looks like OHM monthly meetings are kicking off.
And
Was that?
I think that's next week, and there's some discussion about it in the general channel.
Oh, perfect. Okay, cool. Yeah, because that was really interesting when they did the deep dive, and I know there's been some interest in using some of these tools for CHAOSS. So yeah, so that would be interesting. So it looks like that's going to happen soon. Open Source Summit, we've talked about this, is in Denver. CHAOSScon is with it, and then we also have the hackathon, which we talked about. Oh, and the other thing to mention, CHAOSS Africa is also coming up, and that's paired with another event. Maybe if somebody on here has more details, I don't remember the dates for the other event. Okay. But anyways, that is another event that's going to be happening soon.
Great. Well, it's great chatting with you all. This has been great, and I'm excited to see more data and what else we find and be able to keep talking about it.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, Earl. Have a good rest of your day today.
Bye, everybody.